Auchentoshan claim they are the only distillery that has continuously triple distilled their whiskey since 1823. This Lowland distillery is located 11 miles west of Glasgow, next to the Clyde River. It is one of the few Lowland distilleries that have survived the Whiskey Depressions, the Prohibition, the World War II Blitzkrieg bombings, and the Whiskey Lock. Triple distillation is not common in Scottish distilleries. It is much more commonly used in the Irish whiskies. Auchentoshan still uses the normal wash still. What is different is they add a third intermediate still. The distillate is split in two, and only the higher strength cut is sent to the spirit still. The lower strength cut is sent back to be redistilled. The final distiller's cut is around 81%. This process can take longer and be more labor intensive. The main idea behind the triple distillation of whiskey is to get rid of those unwanted flavors. Springbank produces Hazelburn, which is another triple distilled Scotch. Ben Riach and Ben Romick do some triple distilled bottlings. I've always looked at Auchentoshan as an Irish distillery in Scotland. Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey, and we did a review on this guy here, and this was the 12-year-old, and of course I mentioned to you I'd given the bottle away as a gift. When they get down low, I've been sitting around for a few years, and sometimes I'm worried about the oxidation of that. Instead of pouring in another bottle, I usually give it as a gift, and that's what I did. I gave it to a gift to a friend and all that, but I always keep a little bit of, and I hadn't done a review on Auchentoshan. I was thinking ahead. I said one of these days I'm going to have to get a review on it, so let's keep a little of the 12 for a review, in which I did, and I did the review, and that was our introduction into Auchentoshan, one of the lowland distilleries that had been around since the 1800s. And just from the last review there, I mentioned John Bullock, the founder of Auchentoshan, but actually doing a little bit more research on this, I found that it was John Bullock. We mentioned, started the distillery in 1823. And a lot of the notes will say that. They'll say 1823, but in reality, John Bullock was around in 1800, and this was built as the Auchentoshan distillery. Now, by the time that we were looking at the Excise Act, the fact that it's very close to Glasgow, and that it's very difficult, I guess, to hide a distillery like that, that is right close to the Clyde. Now, in the earlier days, it was off the river because that's what they were doing. They were trying to hide the distillery when the excise people came around. But by 1823, when they actually did the licensing, it was probably it was better to license it. So originally, it was called the Auchentoshan. It was when the son took over in 1823. It was licensed because the father, John Bullock, ended up financially challenged to keep it going. So the son took over. He didn't do much better. So it did get sold to actually the distiller John Hart. And of course, Alexander Fisher was a farmer and stayed with them for 44 years. So, but anyways, I've told you the history in the previous review. You're welcome to look at that review. Okay, let's get into this 18 Auchentoshan. So, this is interesting. It's kind of a, you look at the box. I mean, this box looks a lot like some of the other Auchentoshan boxes. So, I'm trying to think of one of the other whiskeys I had. It was a non-age statement that looked very similar to this box. So when this was in the liquor store, I missed it probably over a period of a few months. And I've been trying to get a hold of this whiskey for quite a few years and all that. But I walked by it and I was probably staring right at it. And part of it is because it doesn't stand out at you, this box. And in fact, I'd mentioned to one of the ladies there that knew in this, and it's a private liquor store, they bring in one of the better private liquor stores, certainly on Vancouver Island, and they bring in a lot of unique stuff. And so I mentioned to her, I said, "Is this new?" And she said, "No, it's been here for a while. She was here when you were here last." So I was probably staring right at it. And it's, some of the criticism was that the box doesn't stand out, and they were criticizing the company for not giving it a more you know, for an 18-year-old, giving it a little more presence. Hey, I'm happy it didn't, because it gave me a chance to grab the ball. If this had been in your face, I probably wouldn't have had a chance to get it, because this sold out pretty quick, by the way. $120, come on, 18-year-old whiskey. But if I'm going to be critical on a box, it has nothing to do with the presentation of the box, believe you me. What I'm more concerned about is the structural strength of that box. That's something that you know, it's not going to fall through the bottom. So my criticism is more this, that that is not that strong. If it ever got wet, you could have the bottle fly through there. So I'm very cautious with these kind of boxes. The money is definitely not tied up in the box, but then I'm looking at the price. Put a fancy box, the bottle in a fancy box, and we're going to see that $120 price go up. And in Canada, $120 for an 18-year-old whiskey, it's excellent. So we will leave that one alone. I've said my piece. And let's give this a, oh, you got to look at the bottle. So there's the bottle. Again, looks a lot like a lot of the other bottles, the Auchentoshan bottles. It has that look, that style of bottle. Auchentoshan, and let's give it a fair review. And it is one of the older distilleries in Scotland, and so certainly deserves a review. And it is unique in that it does the triple distillation, so certainly worthy of a review. And how that works, by the way, the triple distillation is that it's that intermediate still that most distilleries do not have, and it actually steps up the alcohol percentage to 81% into the, when it finally comes out of the spirit still. And it does take a lot of the, they call it the unwanted tastes, and it does, I mean, fusel oil and you know, a lot of the stuff that maybe some people don't like tasting, the sharper tastes, I'm going to leave it at unwanted tastes in whiskey. So some people are critical of Auchentoshan being too light. It's another presentation. That's the beautiful thing about Scotland. We have so many different whiskies, and they are from one extreme to the other. So we can say this is at one extreme. We can go somewhere up in the Highlands to get the other extremes. So anyways, let's give this the nose. So, right off the bat, we're getting lots of honey notes right off the bat. And I am getting grain, cereal grains, almost some granola here, a bit of wood, savory, a little bit of savory, and yeah, the citrus. The citrus is, this is typical of the 12-2 and a lot of their whiskeys. This is citrus notes, almost a grapefruit. And I am going to say we are even getting, oh boy, when I say the honey, is the sweetness with the citrus notes. It's such a neat little blend. I'm going to say orange blossom honey. Yeah, let's speed her up here on this review. Similar notes to what we had in the 12. We're going to go right to the palate. Wood, but not sharp. Honey. Oh boy, I think I nailed it with the orange blossom honey. And I did mention the cereal notes. The malt is almost like that malted bread I talked about a while back in one of my reviews there. I got in Tasmania, malted barley loaf that I just, delicious. I used to go to a bakery and pick that stuff. I loved it. You know, it was just throw some butter on that, and so get a little bit of that. And oh, we're getting a wee bit of the chocolate, but not dark chocolate. Yeah. I'm I'm going to say with the sweet notes there, we're mixing a lot of, I'm going to say with the grapefruit, but citrusy, slight bit of berry stuff going on here, mixed in with the citrus. Could be the sherry finish. I believe my understanding is this is 80% refill bourbon casks, and I believe it's 20% first fill Oloroso sherry butts. So maybe that's the berries. But the wood is prominent. Now, the interesting thing about this whiskey, I have to say, is that I've had this for several years, and you see, I haven't drank a lot of it. When I first got this whiskey, I wasn't as impressed, and I thought I'm going to leave it for a while. And I've sort of sipped it through the years here, and we're over a period of 3 years or whatever it was. And I will say that the whiskey has a lot more to deliver now than it did maybe in the beginning. I'm definitely seem to be getting a lot more out of it. So some of the notes I'm getting here, like I mentioned, that orange blossom honey, I don't know if I got as much of that, and this is certainly something new to me. The cereal notes for sure, but I think it's important to let this one sit in the glass for a while. So what I had learned from drinking this over time is I'd have a small dram, and I'd let it sit, 20 minutes or so, before really sipping on it. And I sort of went through the stage of pouring as part of the presentation, but this one here, normally I don't just pour it out. I usually let it sit. I've had a lot better dram by letting it sit. So 10 minutes, 15, whatever. It seems to really help this whiskey. So I'm going to say that my best part of this whiskey is in the glass at least 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And it's opening up more in the nose now too. So now we talked about the cinnamon, and we're getting some richness to the nose here. I'm actually getting a wee bit of that sherry now. So things are opening up. Okay, let's give it another bit of palate there. A very, very strong on the malt. I mentioned that malted barley sweetness, and again the wood in the background, but very smooth, not sharp. That's the triple distillation process, and the 18 years, of course. Cinnamon, ginger. I'm going to say certainly the cooking spices, the baking spices. Mentioned a slight bit of savory. And the vanilla is sort of mixed in with the orange blossom honey notes, and I'm getting a little bit of a dryness. So we're going to go on with the finish right now, and something else I would want to do, just sort of give you see what we can do for legs here, because it is a 43. Maybe we got a little bit more body. I'd say it definitely has a little bit more body than the 12. So let's just see what we can do here. With give you a quick glance. I won't waste a lot of your time on this one here, but I am seeing legs. So let's get it a little bit farther from the camera here and just see if we can get a focus there. And you can see it's not a real dark color. That's why I'm wondering how much coloring they've added to this. You get a little bit of a, maybe see it right there. You can see the color a little bit better there. But I just don't think it's had a lot of coloring added. So anyways, there you are. So the finish is short. It's not a long finish. It's a little bit longer than the 12 though. So we'll say a little longer on the short side is what I'm going to say for the finish. It does have, it leaves a lighter coating on your tongue than a lot of the different Scotch, certainly Bladnoch, lighter coating than a Bladnoch. But it's an enjoyable whiskey, and it's a whiskey that I really believe that is a great introductory whiskey. Certainly the 12, because it's more affordable. You're in the $65, $70 range on the 12, so it's going to be a lot more affordable for somebody getting into Scotch, or somebody getting introduced into the Lowland, the Auchentoshan's, or into triple distill. I am going to say it's very much, because I drink a lot of Irish whiskey, it's very much an Irish whiskey in Scotland. It's kind of interesting how you've got some Scotch being distilled in Ireland, and you've got some Irish whiskey being distilled in Scotland. So there you are. Overall, the 18, a decent whiskey. Again, like a sipper, it is not going to be a heavy hitter. I'm expecting this to be much more of a heavy hitter, this Auchentoshan here, but certainly a whiskey that can be appreciated by those that are just getting into Scotch. Someone like me, I appreciate it when I don't need a heavy hitter. I just want to sip, and I want something a little more delicate. That's what I love about Scotch. I've got, a whiskey like, you take this guy here. This is a 24-year-old, and this is an old Perth, 24-year-old. It is a cask strength. It can be very intense if you don't let it sit, but it's a great whiskey. I'm just giving you a contrast between, those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, and I enjoy both of them. But this is one where it's just a light sipper. So if I was giving this a score, when I first opened up the bottle, not as impressive, but now it's been sitting for a while, and I am, just before I finish here, because it's been sitting in my hand for a little bit longer, I'm going to have another sip, and I'm going to actually get something different, because that's what's unique about this whiskey, is as you let it sit longer in the glass. It's 18 years old, so it was 1 minute for every year, but I mean, I'm going to say 10-15 minutes is going to be a huge difference in this. So I really feel this whiskey does open up a lot more. It delivers a lot more as we let it sit. So just before we give it the score, I'm going to have one last sip, okay? So long. And this is where I really start to enjoy this. So we're almost going toward Matukahani now, and we're getting a lot more of the wood. Beautiful wood, by the way. A lot different when my first sip, and I'm finding that I'm getting that coating on the tongue now. I'm actually distinguishing what the cereal notes, the malt, and of course the wood. A little bit more distinguished too. It's not just all blended together. So certainly, please give this a chance to sit. Give it a chance. Give all whiskeys a chance. Don't go on first impression. And I don't. If I went on first impression on this here, it would probably have been an 81-ish. I'm going to say it's an 83 to an 84, because that's what I'm tasting now. That's what my palate is telling me. That is what my nose is telling me. Beautiful nose on this one. It's got a beautiful nose. 83, 84. I'll post it. I'll post which direction I'm going on that. So, anyways, that is my 18 Auchentoshan review. I'm going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, do not drink and drive. Until the next time, so much.